The business of war has always been a controversial topic. While war can bring about technological advancements and create jobs, it also causes destruction and suffering. Unfortunately, throughout history, there have been individuals and corporations that have profited from war, often at the expense of others. In Germany, many banks and businesses supported Hitler's regime. Some of these bankers were involved in funding the construction of concentration camps and the purchase of weapons for the Nazi army. The motives behind this are complex and varied. Some may have believed that supporting the regime would be good for business, while others may have been sympathetic to Hitler's ideologies. On the other side of the war, the US also had bankers who profited from the conflict. One of the most notorious examples of this is the Union Banking Corporation, which was owned by Prescott Bush, the father of President George H.W. Bush. The bank had business dealings with German industrialist Fritz Thyssen, who helped fund Hitler's rise to power. After the war, the bank's assets were seized by the US government under the Trading with the Enemy Act. It's easy to see why people might feel uneasy about this topic. The idea that someone could profit from something as horrific as war can be hard to stomach. But it's important to remember that war is not just about weapons and fighting. It also has an economic component, and as with any other industry, there are people who will try to profit from it. Of course, not everyone in the banking industry was complicit in these actions. There were bankers and other individuals who risked their own safety to resist the Nazis and help those who were being persecuted. These individuals remind us that even in the darkest of times, there are still people who are willing to do the right thing. But why did these bankers support Hitler in the first place? The answer to that question is complex and multifaceted. Some may have seen it as a smart business decision, while others may have been swayed by Nazi propaganda. Some may have even shared Hitler's ideologies and beliefs. Whatever the reason, it's clear that the actions of these bankers had far-reaching consequences. The financial support provided by these individuals and institutions helped fuel the Nazi war machine and contributed to the deaths of millions of people. It's important to remember that the actions of these bankers were not isolated incidents. Throughout history, there have been individuals and corporations that have profited from war, often at the expense of others. This is why it's important to remain vigilant and critical of those who seek to profit from conflict. But it's not just bankers who have profited from war. In the 1950s, a former Nazi scientist named Wernher von Braun warned of the dangers of the military-industrial complex. Wernher von Braun is known for his contributions to the field of rocket science, particularly his work on the V-2 rocket during World War II. However, he is also known for a warning he gave towards the end of his life about the potential dangers of the military-industrial complex. In his warning, von Braun predicted that the military-industrial complex would create adversaries to continue wars and to fund their black op research. He saw this as a dangerous cycle that could ultimately lead to the destruction of society. It's easy to see why people might find this warning alarming. The idea that powerful institutions could be creating conflicts for their own benefit is certainly troubling. But is there any truth to von Braun's warning? It's worth noting that the military-industrial complex is a term that was coined by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1961. At the time, he warned of the potential dangers posed by the close relationship between the military and the defense industry. This relationship, he believed, could lead to a situation where the interests of the military and the interests of the country as a whole were no longer aligned. Von Braun's warning can be seen as an extension of this idea. He believed that the military-industrial complex was not just a danger to national interests, but to humanity as a whole. He saw the potential for conflicts to be created simply to justify the continued funding of military research and development. Of course, it's worth noting that this is just one perspective. There are those who would argue that the military-industrial complex is necessary for national defense, and that the research and development it supports ultimately benefits society as a whole. But it's also worth considering the potential dangers of such a system. If the military-industrial complex is creating conflicts simply to justify its own existence, then there is a real danger that it could lead to unnecessary and costly wars. This could lead to a situation where resources are diverted away from other important areas, such as education and healthcare. Von Braun believed that the complex, which includes corporations that produce weapons and other military equipment, would create adversaries in order to continue funding their black operations research. This warning is still relevant today, as military spending continues to be a significant portion of many countries' budgets. One controversial topic that has been linked to the military-industrial complex is the possibility of UFO and ET information collection and reverse engineering. For decades, there has been speculation about the possibility of extraterrestrial life and the potential for alien technology to be in the possession of various governments and institutions. While some dismiss these claims as mere conspiracy theories, there is evidence to suggest that there may be more to the story than we initially thought. The United States military has a long history of researching and experimenting with advanced technologies, including those that may be of extraterrestrial origin. One of the most well-known cases of this is the alleged crash of a UFO in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. While the military initially claimed that the debris was from a weather balloon, many believe that it was actually from an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Since then, there have been numerous reports of sightings of UFOs and other unexplained phenomena, some of which have been investigated by government agencies. It's not hard to imagine that if an extraterrestrial spacecraft were to crash on Earth, the military and other institutions would be eager to study its technology and potentially reverse engineer it for their own use. Of course, there is no concrete evidence to suggest that this has actually happened. However, there are several cases where it appears that the military may have been investigating UFO sightings and encounters. One of the most well-known of these is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a secretive program within the U.S. Department of Defense that was dedicated to investigating UFO sightings and potential threats from other nations. There have also been reports of crashed UFOs being recovered and taken to secretive military bases for study. While these reports are difficult to verify, they do suggest that the military has been interested in the potential technology that may be present on these crafts. If the military and other institutions have been studying extraterrestrial technology, what might they have learned? It's impossible to say for sure, but there have been rumors of advanced propulsion systems and other technologies that could revolutionize the way we travel and communicate. Of course, it's also worth considering the potential risks of such technology falling into the wrong hands. If advanced technologies from extraterrestrial sources were to be reverse engineered and replicated, there is a danger that they could be used for destructive purposes. Additionally, there is the potential for unintended consequences, such as the disruption of natural ecosystems and the unintended consequences of tampering with advanced technologies. While there is no concrete evidence to support these claims, the possibility raises questions about the ethics of profiting from war and the potential dangers of advanced technology falling into the wrong hands. The business of war has had a long and complicated history. While advancements in technology and job creation can be seen as positive outcomes of war, the human suffering and exploitation that often accompanies it cannot be ignored. It is important for individuals and governments to consider the ethical implications of profiting from war and to strive for peaceful solutions whenever possible.